let's hopping all around, but I'm fascinated with the topic of decision making, right? Like, you take for granted that people make decisions. In my experience, it's a skill set that gets built up. Like, let's put it in context of a student interested in the abstract of civil engineering, especially if the field's going towards decision making for society. Like, how do you teach decision making? Like, or how does a civil engineer make decisions, and then how do you teach that to students? Two-part question.
I think it's an expansion of the curriculum that we all went through are very much black and white factory book learning of the numbers are what the numbers are. When you design a steel beam, there are, I don't want to say there's not a lot of decisions, but there are decisions, but there are many facts behind that decision. That's science and math will help guide you to there's no exact right design, or there's no perfect design, but there are many right designs, and how do you choose which one it is, and understanding the other factors that are in play. I think that it goes beyond the math and science of engineering. It goes into some of the electives, or putting a little bit more focus on of economics. Economics are a big part of what we do. I'm sure that in an ideal world, we could build we could design the optimum design, but not very likely that it's going to get built. Because, again, there are economic factors, political factors. Those things being woven into the curriculum, not necessarily that it's a course completely on political science, but weaving that into the curriculum of beyond just fluid mechanics or statics and strengths, that within that textbook learning, there's also got to be some socioeconomic learning. And that's where I can see that from the student's perspective, if that's something that's woven into all classes, and it's a continuum. Risk, again, I talked about risk, understanding what is the level of risk and what does it mean, so that when somebody then is in a position 25 years later to be making those decisions, it's not something new, that there's been exposure to that type of process.
You keep pulling on that thread, because now I'm curious. Say you had a crown and a scepter, and you could decree a curriculum of your dreams, right? Like a 4-year program. What would you see a student going through? Is it like bookended? Is it constantly in a communal pool of 100 people talking about this, that, or whatever? Is it one person solitary working on a calculator? Like, what do you think the next phase of civil engineering? I guess the question would be, what is your almost ideal curriculum? What does it look like?
That is a hard one, because as students come out, and enter the workforce, a lot of it's going to be dependent on where they're going. And are they going into a role that's going to be very technical, or are they going to go into a role that's academic, or a role that's more of a management project construction, putting a project together.
Yep.
So it really is hard to say what is the ideal or what isn't ideal, because I think different schools have some are more practical based and some are more academic, and understanding how to think. And some schools are very much about, if you get out on the job, this is what you need to know, and a lot more of what to think.
Yep.
And I don't think either of those are wrong. And I think for any given student, understanding what the program is that they're in is, I don't know when I went to school, if I knew that when I went in, that when I came out, this is the type of learning that I was going to have, and how it would have affected, again, working in a practical nature versus working in a more theoretical nature, or working in a administrative and leadership. So there's there's much more than you can put into 4 years. I think that might be the real answer, is that to put a 4-year program together and consider it wholly complete, I don't think that's doable. And so it again becomes a question of, well, what do you focus on? What can you add, and how can you add it? Because we're not gonna. I don't see a 3-credit or a 4-credit course on ethics. I don't see one on risk management. I don't see one on history and heritage. At least, again, not across the board. Different, certain schools may do just because of the nature of their leadership or their administration. Virginia Tech, I believe, has a program in land development, the only one that I know of in civil engineering. I don't know any other school that has a land development focus.
And for work for Chazen, right? Chazen's multidisciplinary, but land development's a big portion. So when we recruit, where does the land development, where does the LD group look for kids? There's nothing.
I fell into land development just because of the projects I had. I did 9 years in mostly municipal engineering, and then when I went to another company, was working on a site and municipal team and gravitated toward the land development. I didn't have any knowledge going into that. I didn't have any training in what land development is. It was from being in the profession and learning while I was there. But I don't think that as a 17-year-old ever thinking I'm going to go to a program in land development. I'm going to be a civil engineer with a land development concentration.
Right.
So a lot of it again is that when you're going into the school and you're getting into the bachelor's program, I think that a degree in civil engineering, the core curriculum of learning how to solve problems, learning how to work with teams, how to collaborate, how to understand evaluations of alternatives, I think those are all very integral to it. And then doing it with the math and the science of a specific discipline. If your focus goes to geotech or focus goes to structural or hydraulics, that you take those classes to understand, well, Bernoulli's equation or Euler's equation or what have you. Those are fundamental to actually do the work, because what I've seen is that when somebody's out of school, the first thing they're going to be is going to be put on a project, and the expectation is they're going to do calculations. They're not going to be expected to manage a project. They're not going to be expected to manage clients. Those are all things that are important eventually. What's important is not to do it detrimentally. So even though you're not expected to manage clients on day one, there is an expectation that you're not going to do something that's going to drive clients away.
Sure.
But the growth of and training that happens once you're in a company, that's where I think a lot of that would really become ingrained. But exposure to that and understanding, one of the best classes I had experience-wise was a wastewater treatment class where we spent the semester designing a wastewater treatment plant that was a real wastewater treatment plant, and at the end we had to make a presentation to the public,
sure.
A board which was made up of the professors in the department as well as the operator and superintendent of the wastewater plant, which was a real plant. So it was exposure to something that was much more than the numbers of calculating, the hydraulics or biological oxygen demand, what have you. Those are that's homework. You can do that. You can,
right.
But going and being in front of the person that actually runs that plant and explaining why you made this decision or made this recommendation, and then having to take the brunt of the criticism, and again, not take it personally, but take it as a learning lesson. As that's critical as you get out into the field to be able to speak in public and to be able to handle adversity.